right. Well, my name is Michael Alden. We are here in Blue Vase Studios. We are also live on Facebook. We've actually had some technical difficulties in the past on going live on Facebook. Hopefully we won't have any, but don't worry about it. If you're listening now and on Facebook, great. And if you're watching right now on Facebook and you can't hear me, well, hopefully you'll find the podcast after. I'm really, really excited for my next guest. Her name is Jessica Hawthorne-Castro. I first learned to her because we're in the same industry, and she's really making a name for herself within our industry. She's the CEO of a company called Hawthorne Direct. They're really kind of forgive me, Jessica, if I give the wrong description but I look at them as a full multi-spectrum type media agency where they not only they're buying media for others and huge clients, by the way, but they're also on the creative side and the analytic side, and they're really on the cutting edge of what's happening right now in the world of media. She's received a bunch of different awards. The 40 Under 40 award. She was a nominee as one of the top entrepreneur of the year by Ernst & Young. She also has her master's from Loyola Marymount University. She's really just doing some great things. And also, I think, Jessica, before you actually say it, I think she's also a fellow TMer, which I am as well. So I want to thank you, Jessica, for being my guest. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I didn't know we were fellow TMers, so I love that connection. Well, you know what? I just kind of assumed it, but I'm glad I was right. So, Jessica, for those of the people that are watching right now on live and maybe the people that are listening, tell us a little bit about your background. You have a really interesting background. Tell us a little bit how you got to where you're at today. Absolutely. So I was from the East Coast, but actually grew up in the Midwest. So had a strong foundation of the Midwest, ethics and work ethic as well. And that I was also in a community of TMers, just so you know there too, Michael. And came out to LA for a university and got my start in the entertainment industry. So I was doing everything just as an undergrad, working hard back in the day when all jobs and internships were basically unpaid. But I did everything from, computer graphics to digital editing, music videos, film production. And I actually got my start then. I kind of pivoted that and transitioned to the talent agency world. So I started, training as an agent at one of the larger agencies out there. At that time, it was called Endeavor. Now it's Endeavor William Morris, WME. And worked my way up pretty quickly there and became a television literary agent. So I represented writers, directors, and producers for TV. And then... Okay. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, so the part that I find interesting about, first of all, I could ask you a million questions just about everything you already said, and I'm just, just my head was already spinning. But the literary agent part to me, I find interesting. How do you become a literary agent? So when you enter a talent agency, one of the, any of the large agencies, but really any of them, but I was one of the large ones, you have basically talent departments, television departments, and then film departments. And I ended up you have this progression of working for different agents, and through that path, I ended up working for some of the television agents and kind of transitioning. And I actually worked for, if you ever remember the show Entourage, but the real life person who the Ari character, but the gentleman's name was Ari Emanuel. He was the real agent, and he was a traditional television agent. That's how he got his start, and so that's basically what took me into the track of becoming a TV agent. Oh, that is definitely interesting. I want to just go back to what you said to what you said when you kind of first got involved in that particular industry. You sounds like you did a lot of different things. When you first, kind of entered that world, did you understand the world of, I think you mentioned like graphics, or did you understand all the things that you were doing? How did you? Were you just thrown a bunch of different tasks as an intern first? How did that all work? That's a great question. So, we'll flash forward just for a moment that I'm obviously now in advertising at Hawthorne, and we're a full-service agency. So that was a company that Tim Hawthorne, who was my father, started 30 years ago. I had some background because of that
in the entertainment industry per se, but in advertising. And even my mother was doing computer graphics, back in the day. And we lived in LA for a bit, in the first Olympics out here in '84. So that was kind of in the, in our genes to be in kind of entertainment. When I was out in LA as an undergrad, I was actually a fine arts major. So I was a visual artist. But as an artist, I was also a bit of a realist. So, I didn't want to do that as a career. But I took that visual, tendency that I had and worked in the different facets of the entertainment industry. And, business always came very naturally. And then through the transition of just having a lot of internships, literally I would have my resume. I'd, go out into Hollywood, and this is the days before even really email or things like that. And I would knock on the door and I would say, can I get an internship here? And it's just persistence, and that's what I did. So I had several, but through having all those jobs, because I'm all about like testing and kind of seeing what works and what you gravitate towards, I found that I had a knack for obviously business, and entertainment. And obviously I knew artists because even I was one. But as a realist, I was like, I'm good, but I'm not great. But I can represent artists because I know them, I know who they are, and I can, build their careers. So that's kind of what transitioned me to the business side of representing artists. And then that the artist, was kind of a broader sense, and that it was talent in the entertainment industry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And as I'm, kind of envisioning, what your life was like as a kid. So growing up, with your father, who I know is an icon in our industry, and also your mother doing the graphic side of things. So it had to have been, obviously, it was probably better than your actual higher education as far as learning about business, right? Learning about everything that's going on. So tell me, growing up in that environment with your mom and dad, sounds like they were both involved in the business. Do you think that was really kind of the impetus that really helped you, transition from being an artist into the business world?
Yeah, very likely. It's not like I was formally trained in it, but obviously just, via osmosis for any of us growing up when you're in that environment. And we were always hard workers. Obviously, my father was a hard worker, and and so was I. So it didn't ever seem like hard work. It was just like, yes, of course you should be working, and and building a business. And so the visual nature of kind of being in entertainment, which really translates well to advertising, because you're an artist creating work for brands, but you're also building these brands' businesses as well. And that's what the agency, like you mentioned at the beginning, we're still a full service agency. Over 30 years later, we're doing creative work. We're buying all the media across all platforms, and we're doing the data analytics, and that's the through line through everything. That's basically the modern transition of connecting the ROI, the return on investment. For every dollar of media spent for our clients, we are building their businesses for them. So yeah, it was just working hard, and being in these any types of these businesses was just kind of a natural family trait. It wasn't planned. It wasn't distilled. It never even was laid out. It's just what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like the osmosis analogy. You're right. If you're around it, I have a little girl. She's 11, and she's constantly, hearing me. Sometimes maybe probably not using the proper words. I call them sometimes sentence enhancers. But she's always listening to me having conversations, and I wonder what her life is going to look like, because she's always around me and a lot of the stuff, and hears a lot of the business stuff, and I actually kind of enjoy it, because she'll ask me a question. I'll never forget one time she says to me, she says, "Daddy, that guy you were just talking to, are you buying product from him for a certain price and then selling it to others for a higher price?"
Absolutely.
I said, that's exactly what I'm doing, and I love that question. So let's talk about Hawthorne Direct a little bit. So again, your company is a full-service media agency with some of the biggest clients in the world. You got 3M, Amarol, Audible, Black & Decker, Dyson, Gerber, L'Oreal. It just goes on and on and on. You have major Fortune 100 companies that are coming to you. How does that happen? How do you land a Carbonite or a Black & Decker? How does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was obviously built because we have over a 30-year-old brand. So a lot of that is brand, reputation. And but that was built initially, even from Tim's background, where his mission and vision was to bring basically direct response and a form of accountable advertising to brands, and fast forward 30 years later, that's what we've been doing the whole time. And that, we truly feel that brands should be able to have a beautifully branded campaign, and have accountability and analytics in their media campaigns as well. So, it's through that, the Hawthorne brand, doing this for so long, our proven results for our clients, and referrals, obviously CMOs, as many chief marketing officers, as many of us know, they, move from company to company, and, through that great work that we've done and proven over time, they bring you into other brands and clients, and, and then we, have the incoming calls. People call us, they the request for proposals to see, how we can help them build their companies as well. So, it's through hard work, great client relationships, client service, but fundamentally, it's our the agency's mission and vision that we are in this to, build companies and the brands for our clients, and so that their companies grow, as the marketing campaign grows, but it's only because we're helping their businesses grow. So it's those proven results that still have them coming back, year after year.
That makes a lot of sense. In a second, I want to ask you to give us a little bit of a kind of a tutorial on direct response. We're both in the business, we both understand it, but I think a lot of major brands, a lot of advertisers, they don't understand direct response, and to this day, I still think it's the best form of advertising. In just a second. So, folks, again, we are on with Jessica Hawthorne-Castro. She's the CEO of Hawthorne Direct. Really growing a business, growing a brand, like we're talking a little bit before. They are a full-service multimedia agency where they're buying the media, they're performing the analytics, and they're also creating the production as well. So, if you'd like some more information about Jessica and the things that she's doing, you can just go to hawthornedirect.com. You're also on Twitter too, right? What's your Twitter handle, Jessica?
At Hawthorne-Castro.
Okay, at Hawthorne-Castro. So if you want to find a little bit more information about her and kind of what she's doing, it's really, really awesome. I'm looking. I have my iPad in front of me. The awards that she's just getting. It's almost seems like they're coming in almost every day. She's doing some great things, not only in her area, but all over the country, and it's really kind of awesome to watch. So direct response. I sometimes when I'm talking to others outside of this industry, they have a hard time understanding, and I have a hard time understanding them when they say, hey, let's advertise or let's grow our brand. And people say, let's grow our brand. And tell us a little bit about why direct response is really kind of the best way to grow your brand.
Absolutely. So I can go into a very, very brief, history of it. But when I think you and I are talking about, direct response, we're really talking about kind of offline techniques. So that's,
right.
More television, buys and off. But the television now encompasses obviously everything from over the top content, VOD. So, offline media buys. And some people think of direct response from way back, in the 50s where it's, print and direct mail. But you and I think we're talking about offline media buying and creative campaigns that, video creative campaigns. So it really goes back to the, early 80s when the industries were being deregulated by Reagan, including the airline industry, and television airtime at that time also, was deregulated. And that just basically meant that larger time slots besides your traditional 30-second spot were opened up to be able to purchase, by brands. And that was, kind of some of the beginning forms of quote unquote direct response. And then people that kind of morphed into I would say what the brand of direct response television, what people thought about it, which became like 30-minute commercials. And, in the early days, that was kind of an unknown thing. But then after some time, people might have had some experience with it or bought something on TV. And then it started to, I think, have a brand reputation that is direct response, where it was kind of like these one-shot products sometimes, and they may or may not have worked. But But I think some of it is just a brand perception of what they, their own personal experience with direct response is. But, fast forward to right now, what it basically encompasses is it's a certain way that we approach media buying first and foremost. So it's not very even common these days to even buy half hours. They still exist, but you can buy any segments of television airtime, whether it's 5 seconds, 15 seconds, 30, 60, or even, 2 minutes, or still the traditional half hour. But you buy any segment of media time on air. But because of the way that we approach media and the context that we have with the station reps, we are actually able to, secure rates that are much less than a traditional rate that you would typically buy these spots. So first of all, it's very, it's a very efficient, cost-effective way to purchase media. And also, we're you can be, but you're not always locked into upfront buys, which means it's a schedule that's, locked in for, several months in advance. We buy and optimize media on a daily and weekly basis to make sure that the media is always still generating, a return on investment. And traditionally also, the metrics were just, you had an 800 number. This is, again, 30 years ago, right? You had an 800 number. You might have had some continuity, which means, some secondary products sold on your initial media. And so you would literally track the dollars that each media, airing, the revenue that you generate from each media airing. These days, it's usually tracked by your web hits, your lead generation. We have millions and millions of data points being fed into our data systems. And so we put all of our media buys into our analytics systems. And then we take all of our clients, either POS, that's point of sale data. We take all of their digital data. That means all their web hits, everything that's coming in, all their sales. We flow it all through our systems. We track it all back to the media, that's being purchased across all platforms, and we can still determine the ROI on every media spot aired on any platform. So I think it's really more of a brand kind of perception from the early days of what people think direct response versus kind of the sophistication of how to just efficiently have a media campaign that performs and is accountable and has an ROI, which is what it is these days. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense, and obviously, I'm a firm believer in it. And when I think about, to try and distill down what you're saying is for those listening who might not understand what we're both talking about, is I look at it from my perspective. I look at it when we spend dollars in advertising, whether it be like you said offline, whether it be on television, radio, internet, whatever it is. If we spend $1,000 in the world of direct response, we're able to tell the story, we're able to build the brand, we're able to do all the things that, quote, traditional marketers do. But the other part of it is the ROI aspect of it, or what we call in this industry is the MER. So we're able to do all that stuff that traditional advertisers do, right? And this is what Hawthorne is has really perfected over the past 30 years. You're also able to generate income or revenue off of that media. And that's the thing that when we're talking about, you said the, kind of the perception I think that people have. They think that, these, it's going to be an infomercial and these guys are going to be yelling and doing all these other things. Direct response is not that stuff anymore. It's a URL, right? It is still an 800 number. It's a, what do they call, like a fast code. It's a QR code. It's all these different things where you're eliciting some sort of response from people, but at the same time, you're still building your brand. And that's what I love about it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I think that, again, it's really just a brand perception the industry had that people qualify. And also, back in the day, and it was basically 30 years ago, the industry kind of formed, you really only had branding campaigns and then pretty hardcore, response campaigns. And so the two were separate. And so what you're saying, and obviously what, our mission and vision has continued to be, is that the two should not be mutually exclusive. You should not just have a branding campaign where you, throw a bunch of money at the wall and see if it sticks or not. And then you shouldn't just have a hard, core campaign that only drives sales, it should also brand as well, so that you should be able to have the same in one campaign. And I think it was just because they were divided, and people didn't think that you could do it together. And I kind of joke sometimes that it wasn't cool to be accountable, for like maybe 20 or so years. And now I think people are catching on. Obviously, it's really digital, and that kind of sounds kind of ridiculous to say at this point in our very, very fast digital and almost AI, artificial intelligence age. But it really wasn't until the internet and people really were on the digital side that they started to track things in metrics that I think it's opened their eyes to like all forms of their advertising, can be accountable, and where what we have been doing all these years, you should be having an ROI on any type of your media spend, whether it's online, offline. And so, it's cooler to be accountable these days, I think.
No, you're right. And it's to me, it's been, again, throughout the years when I talk to people that aren't accountable. I mean, I've heard. I'll give you an example. Like a couple of years ago, one of the big fantasy football companies, or actually not fantasy football, just fantasy sports companies, openly said that I think they were spending $50 million a week or something insane like that, and they openly said, and this is kind of a tech company, they didn't know how well their media was performing. And it drove me nuts. I'm like, and they actually, came right out and said it, but they just knew that money was coming in. And I was like, man, there were so many different, like you said, there's millions of different. You guys are a tech company, and how do you not know whether your media is working? But when you look at these, like, these big brands or these traditional brands, almost all of them now have some form of direct response in there now. I tell people, like, right, look, like you said, if there's a website there, as far as I'm concerned, that's a direct response ad, right?
Absolutely.
Because they're telling you to kind of do something else, and it does make sense. So again, if you're an advertiser, if you want to build a brand, maybe you're building a company, check out what Jessica is doing at Hawthorne Direct. Again, we're on with Jessica Hawthorne-Castro. She's the CEO of Hawthorne Direct. Again, if you're building a brand, if you're thinking about a creative, if you're thinking about creating some sort of advertising, like she said, whether it be all the way down from a 5-second to a 30-minute advertisement, go to their website. Again, it's Hawthorne Direct. It's HAWTHORNE direct.com. Again, it's HAWTHORNE direct.com. Take a look at what they're doing. I've used them before. They do a lot of great things. And again, if you're building a brand, if you're looking to grow your brand, if you're looking to increase your market share, they've been doing it for a long time. And also, they're evolving. And she kind of touched upon that a while. I mean, this company started over 30 years ago, and things are changing rapidly, and they are in fact evolving with the times, which is awesome because a lot of companies aren't, and they definitely are. All right, Jessica. So I'm gonna get into the kind of the core of some of these questions that I like to always ask people. I know you're super busy. I'm gonna try not to keep you too long. Success. When someone looks at the things that you've done from the outside, you certainly appear very, very successful, and I think you are in fact successful. But how do you define success?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, success is different for everyone. But generally, I would define it, as whatever your personal ambition is. And if you're stretching yourself and making, an active, taking an active role in growing yourself both personally and professionally every day, so you're not, stagnant. And because some people may not have ambitions to, they may be very content at, some level of job, and others, may want world dominance, whatever it is. But I think that as long as you are each day, working towards whatever your goals are, and I think working hard is important. I mean, obviously I did grow up in the Midwest, so I'm, a little bit biased to heads down, work hard. I appreciate your very kind with all the accolades and such, but I really don't see it as that. It's just like another day, I'm just working, doing my thing, trying to just, achieve the best for, our clients, obviously this company, and all of our employees. Because really, life is all about employees, whether it's, the people that our great clients that we're working with, we're helping them in their businesses, or, just making, our employees, like, their lives better on a daily basis. So I think as long as you're, getting closer to whatever your personal goal is, and that is success, because it's different for everyone, but you have to be working towards something.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, the one definition that I heard, it's the progressive realization of a worthy goal, and it's basically what you just said. I agree. It's different for everybody. So let's. A lot of people who listen to the podcast, and a lot of they're young entrepreneurs or people that are looking to learn about business. And I think there are a lot of publications out there. There are a lot of even the podcasts, a lot of things out there, especially on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, Facebook. They see all the kind of the glitz. They see all the great stuff. They see all the the question we just asked, the success, the cars, the houses, all these other things. But most of them don't talk about really what it's like. Behind the scenes, growing a business and really what it takes. For you, up until this point, what has been your most difficult professional obstacle, and how did you overcome it?
I think it's on a daily basis. I just wanted to also address your kind of comment in terms of the glitz and what you see, and maybe people see the 0.01% of the success stories out there. One of my friends is a CEO of a tech company similar to Pied Piper, the Silicon Valley show on
Pied
HBO.
Piper.
He says, and he has a good quote. He always says, I thought that being a CEO would be all sports cars and models, and and here I am setting up our trade show booth, right? And
right.
like finding the screwdriver, doing the hustle, and that's what it is. It's every day. It's bringing your A game. It's resilience, and days are not easy, but you just have to work hard at it every single day, and celebrate your successes, but don't ever rest on them. It's just a stepping stone. The nature of life is growth, but so you hit one, but you may have also a step forward, but a step back. So you just have to keep day by day, moving forward. And it's definitely not all the glitz and glamour, that people see. I mean, that's why they say, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And it's certainly not.
I love that. I love, I smiled when you said that. Sometimes people, again, they see, someone like me or you or what have you, and maybe they're younger, and we're doing these things. And then all of a sudden, like you said, I mean, I do that. I mean, I've been at trade. I was literally I own a vodka, and I was at a trade show myself, manning the table. And that's just what it takes. And some people don't understand that. And I love that you said that. He's like, you bring the screwdriver, and you're setting up the booth, and no matter who you are or what level you reach, I mean, that's what successful people do. Right?
Absolutely.
And we don't care about it either, right? Like, we don't care about what other people think. That's the other part, too. I can just tell just from talking. If it's time for you to roll up your sleeves and do it, growing up in the Midwest, maybe it's just your culture. But, I mean, that's just the way it is, right?
Absolutely. No one is above. I'm not above, any job or getting anything done. And so you absolutely. And that's what you need. And I have a lot of CEOs that I know, and a lot of successful ones, and it is definitely, I think, the key characteristic. You see there's a few exceptions where you have I think one of the questions you might want to address, like, what is the educational background of CEOs. There's no real recipe for success. You don't have to have a Harvard MBA. That doesn't, that's not statistically relevant in terms of what makes a CEO. What is statistically relevant is that you adapt quickly for CEOs, but also that you make quick decisions with speed and conviction. So that is really the underlying characteristic, that any of these Harvard Business Review studies have seen, is that is, consistency, making quick decisions, being able to do so and put in the work, it's resilience. So it's doing that every day and not thinking you're better than anyone else, and just, head down and getting the job done.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's go back to the tough question now. The most difficult professional obstacle you've had to that you've had to date, and how did you overcome it?
Right. Yeah. I think that so things are obviously moving so quickly, the speed of technology and everything. And for over 30 years have had our basis in analytics, albeit back in the day it was in Excel and you're doing things with 800 numbers, and now it's, advanced analytics and everything. Things are moving so quickly. So does the speed of having to always make sure your infrastructure is obviously up to date, that, all of your data points, all the information, flowing in from all our various sources are connected, data warehouses. This is a pretty common problem across really most companies, no matter what the industry. Data used to be very expensive to store. It was in several different locations and servers. Making sure that your plans for integrating all that data, because the cost of data and storage has become much cheaper, but you have to have a very, very fine-tuned plan to make sure that it's implemented and done correctly, and that all systems are linking. So it's really still on a daily basis in terms of maintaining that infrastructure and operational speed. And I am looking 3 to 5 years in advance. So not only what we're doing in today's business, but that we're well ahead of where our clients going, the data needs that are coming in, and making sure that you're built for it. So it's it's operational infrastructure and support that is definitely for any company of any size. But obviously we're 30 years old. It's like you're renovating a house while you're living in it, right? So.
I love. And again, when I listen to you talk, I'm like, you know what? I'm not the only one, I guess. It's like, and so like, I think of on my side, again, this is the stuff that people don't see, when we buy media, and a lot of times, and I've had phone systems shut completely down. I've had databases, just completely disappear, and not sure what happened, or servers going out, and electricity, and it's just like you said, I guess it's a constant struggle, and that's the part of business that in a way I think both of us kind of love too, but it's also stressful, right? But it's when you solve that problem, it feels great, doesn't it?
It does, but I guess I never quite feel like anything's totally solved, because I'm always looking ahead and how much is coming, and you have to, like, right, you have to be explaining to everyone, obviously not only your clients, but even the employees, that if you're kind of feeling woe is me about the speed of business today, this is just a drop in the bucket for how much it's going to continue to accelerate and speed up 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 months, so the speed at implementation for all of these things has to get quicker and quicker, and it's hard. I mean, obviously we see what's going on in the world today. It's really hard for people to adapt, and it's not going back. It's just going to get faster. So you have to kind of get on the train, or you're going to be left behind, and that's tough. It's a tough thing,
Yeah, you gotta learn to adapt. I mean, it's truly human nature. So I want to ask you another quick question about what you just talked about. So let's say things it's almost like a hypothetical, and so things go wrong, something breaks, and it adversely affects a client. What does a good business person do in that situation? So something's really going wrong. What do you do when, I don't know, let's just say something really breaks, and your client is expecting something, because it happens to all of us and we hate it, but what do you do?
Right. So obviously you have to have multiple forms of backup. So that needs to be part of your infrastructure and plan. And that means like backup servers, backup, databases, things in the cloud. So whatever your plan is for gathering data, you have to have backup points. So, if that happens, then you have it, but it may take longer to process. Then you have to have the real conversation, with your client. So another good piece of advice I had from like way back in the day in my agent days is that, life is never going to be perfect. You are always going to have problems, but it's not the problems that you should be focusing on. It's the solutions. And so
Right.
that's even what I tell my team members too. I'm like, don't come to me with like a laundry list of problems. I mean, you may have a problem, it's always going to be there, but like, what are the solutions you're suggesting to bring to the table? And, that's the difference. And so the same thing with the approach with, if you're dealing with a challenging situation with the client or something may have happened, it's that acknowledging something that's happened. Transparency and honesty is obviously, key, but having your data points and then coming with, immediately like, what's the solution and what are you doing about it? And that's the key. So you have to be honest, but you always have to be there, with the solution.
Yeah, no, I think that, again, I knew you would answer that question. I'm an attorney by trade. They say a lawyer never asks a question unless he knows the answer. So I'm pretty sure I knew that answer. I knew that you were going to go with that. But I think it's really, really important, again, for people to understand that, business, like you said, it's never going to be perfect. Things are going to go wrong. But there are times where you have to have that difficult conversation. And, I don't care who you are. I don't care how successful you are. Nobody likes to have that conversation. Like, I could just only imagine the conversation that Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg had when Elon Musk blew up a $250 million satellite. That had to have been a difficult conversation, but I'm sure they probably had it, right? So it just happens in business. So again, the takeaway from what she just said is if in fact all of your backups and everything else that you put in place, something does fail, you do need to have that conversation. But again, the other key element is come to your client with, here's the solution. This is what we're going to do. I know I told you I'd ask you all these questions. I know you're super busy, so I'm just going to kind of jump around. I had mentioned earlier in the intro about transcendental meditation. Now, so tell us a little bit about how you handle stress.
Yeah. I think it's great that you brought this up. So I handle stress. I actually grew up in an environment, even in the Midwest, that I went to a school that actually, as part of the curriculum, twice a day we would have meditation. So that was transcendental meditation. It was not religion, for anyone who's heard of it. It's everyone these days, from Ellen DeGeneres to Oprah to Russell Simmons, Russell Brand, millions of people
Howard Stern
do this. Howard Stern, exactly. Yeah, they all meditate, and sometimes you think, well, how do these people have this success level? And they're kind of surprised when they find out that they may be a meditator, and have no transcendental meditation of such. But then it kind of makes sense, because maybe you look at these people and think, wow, they have some amazing success, but you can't just be on all the time. You have to be able to have deep reflection, or most people do, to be able to succeed, or those moments, like you said. I'm not sure if Elon Musk or other meditates, even though I am a fan of his. I was actually at SpaceX. I brought my team there, a couple of months back to kind of inspiration before one of our planning sessions. But you have to typically have some type of deep time of reflection, because to have the perform so well in activity, in business, or in any parts of your life, I think having some deep sense of self, and for me, deep sense of self, which comes with meditation and that points of reflection, is what helps me be successful and perform in action at my best possible self. So I feel I feel very fortunate to have that tool to be able to do that. And I actually had I offered it as like a intro lecture to some of my staff the other day. It's not a requirement. I just kind of give them the information. If people are open to it and they want to, I will help subsidize them learning. So I always want to make sure people are improving personally and professionally. So I offer as much as I can, and if people want to take you up on it, great. But you can only lead the horse to water, as they say, right? You can't make him drink. So.
Yeah, no, I'm such a huge fan of TM. I actually did learn it from Howard Stern. I've told the story a million times.
Wow.
From just hearing him talk about it. And for me, it was about 4 years ago. suffered a panic attack to the point where I was truly like almost paralyzed, and I knew something was up. But that was on a Friday. That Monday, there happened to be a TM center right here in our building. That Monday, I picked it up and learned it. And like you said, I think a lot of people when they hear TM, they think it's some sort of like hippie-ish, weird thing. It's not, and there's a couple great books. I don't know if you've read it. Transcendence is a great book. Russell Simmons' book, although the TM.org is not too psyched about him trying to teach people TM through his book, but I mean the book is called Success Through Silence. Another great book. Dan Harris, he wrote the book 10% Happier. He is not a practitioner of TM in particular, but just meditation in general. And I've actually put through 25 of my employees through it. My parents have gone through it, and folks, if you're listening again, and or you're watching right now, and you're looking for something in your life, I've actually just one of our mutual friends, I won't say his name, he's also picking up TM. The science behind TM is amazing too. Again, so if you're looking for something, just take a look at the science. They have like close to, I think, 400 studies as it relates to what happens in your brain, and from stress to anxiety to depression to heart disease. I mean, it's wild what happens with transcendental meditation. It changed my life, and I wanted to, when I first started doing it, I wanted to stand on the rooftops and just tell everybody about it. It is truly something that is just remarkable, and it's awesome that you were able to do that as a child. So again, I know you're super busy. I'm just going to ask you maybe like I'm going to ask you kind of the last question. You've provided such great advice. Again, we've been on with Jessica Hawthorne-Castro. She is the CEO of Hawthorne Direct. Again, a full service multimedia agency. They buy media for huge brands. They also create advertisements as well, from 5 seconds all the way up to 30. So if you'd like some more information about Jessica, you can, and also Hawthorne Direct. If you have a company, if you're looking to, build your brand, if you're looking to, sell some product, it doesn't really matter how you're trying to do it. They've been doing it for a long time. You can just visit Hawthorne Direct. It's HAWTHORNE Direct.com. You can also find Jessica. It's at Hawthorne-Castro on Twitter. You just Google her, and you'll find her as well. So last question, if you could leave our viewers and listeners, what can you give me like your secret? What is something that you do in addition to TM? What do you do on a daily basis that really kind of helps you, maintain this level of success and continue to grow? I mean, I was watching one of the videos, and successful people all do this, and you were talking about, or you're always striving to grow. But what is it that you do on a daily basis that is going to continue to help you grow as an individual and a CEO?
Absolutely. So a couple things, but I would say in terms of my daily work, it's not necessarily anything that was trained, but just innate. And, I've, again, found that a lot of successful CEOs that I know have similar traits like this. But every day I get to all of my work. So for me, I need to start every day fresh and without being bogged down by the previous day. So every single day I get through, all of my emails, all my tasks. I get everything down to say 30 in my inbox. It is extreme organization and discipline. I've actually not necessarily met anyone to that degree besides me before. But for me, that helps me be able to tackle each day without the weight of anything happening previously. And that's even if I'm on the road at a conference, speaking, client meeting, whatever it is. But I get to everything every single day so that I can start fresh. And I feel that helps me literally have the efficiency of work of like several people in one, like three to four people potentially, So that helps me in my daily work. And then I think that you asked earlier, how did I end up doing all these jobs or even internships and finding what I wanted to do. I think working hard is important, but trying a lot of different things too is important. So there's obviously the cliche, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. And I actually didn't necessarily think that was possible. I thought it was a bit of a cliche, but I did do so many jobs. I worked hard at all of them. It, kind of led me from, one job to, the career in entertainment, and then eventually to advertising. And it was really when I came onto the advertising side that I said, I love this. It fit everything for me personally in terms of, the creative background, developing creative campaigns, but also short campaigns, in terms of just the attention span. Like I like, short creative advertisements. I like building businesses. I like accountability. I like the metrics. I like seeing a campaign. So for me, it really hit at everything in one. And I love it. And so I love what I do. It's not work for me. I mean, I could work 17 hours a day, but I don't really think about that because it's just work is easy for me. And, growing personally and professionally every day is hard work too, but that's really important to me. And I see that, the growth all around happens as a result as well for your employees, for your company, for your brands and clients. So those are a few things that kind of drive me every day.
I love it. Again, distilled down to hard work and love what you do. Jessica, again, I want to thank you so much for being my guest. Again, we've been on with Jessica Hawthorne-Castro, the CEO of Hawthorne Direct. I said it a little bit earlier. If you want some more information about Hawthorne, what they do, if you're interested in growing a brand, selling some product, even starting out from the very beginning, they've been doing it for a long time. She's been doing it for a long time. They're constantly, evolving as well, especially in this world of media, like she had mentioned earlier. It's changing every single day, and they're doing it. They're really on the cutting edge of things. Again, if you'd like some more information, it's Hawthorne, Hawthorne Direct.com. Jessica, again, I want to thank you so much for being my guest. My name is Michael Alden, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Michael.
I knew it! You gotta